Michael is 5 years older than me, but I've never really respectfully called him, never addressed him as my brother, watching him go through one girlfriend after another. I would always greet those girls with a cheerful sister-in-law. On my 22nd birthday, I waited all day, but Michael never came. I wished that I would never like him again. After my birthday ended, I went downstairs to throw out the trash and saw a familiar figure. It was Michael's friend, Casey. Casey, what are you doing here? Michael couldn't get away, so he asked me to bring you a gift. Oh, thanks. And yours? He smiled and said, I've prepared 2 gifts. If you answer my question, I'll decide which one to give you. Autumn. Liking him must be exhausting, right? How about changing things up, be my girlfriend instead? Chapter 1. I stared at Casey in surprise. When did he find out I liked Michael? I thought I'd hidden it well. I had never shown even the slightest hint of jealousy in front of Michael. Casey, I don't understand what you mean. He pressed his lips together, smiling, but there seemed to be a trace of nervousness in his eyes. Then I'll say it again. Autumn, I like you. I want to ask if you'll give me a chance to date me? But he was Michael's best friend. When I first met Michael at the age of 5, Casey was standing right beside him. Thinking about it, I've known Casey for 17 years. I stared at his face, and suddenly remembered the wish I made tonight. Casey chuckled under my gaze. Why are you looking at me like that? Do you think I'm troubling you? I shook my head. It wasn't trouble, just unexpected. Casey was different from Michael. All these years I've known him, I don't think I've ever seen him in a relationship. For a while, I even thought of him as a romantic rival. But Michael, he never had a shortage of women around him. The thought made my heart feel pricked again, a sharp pang of pain, before I looked at Casey and said, just so happens that tonight I wish to stop being single. And here you are. Casey, you must have been sent by Cupid. So I'll go with fate and date you. Casey froze, as if he hadn't expected me to actually agree. After looking at me for a moment, he smiled. He turned to his car and took out a beautifully wrapped gift box. He held it out to me. This one's for my girlfriend. Chapter 2. I opened it right in front of him. Inside was a necklace inlaid with tiny diamonds. Just one glance told me it was expensive. This is way too much, isn't it? I knew his family was wealthy, but in the past, for my birthdays, his gifts were always about the same as Michael's. When it was his birthday, I'd give something similar in return. Casey walked over and gently rubbed the top of my head. It's for you, it's not expensive. As soon as he came closer, that faint scent of his cologne reached my nose. It was different from Michael's. His was cooler, like bitter lemon with a glass full of ice. I quietly stepped back, putting some distance between us. I was already thinking about how to return the gift when Casey's phone rang. Casey, did you deliver the present? The night was quiet, and Michael's voice came clearly from the receiver, along with the laugh of the woman beside him. Yeah, I delivered it, Casey replied. He kept his eyes on me the whole time he spoke. I felt strangely uneasy. My eyes shifted away, but my ears stayed tuned to the voice on the phone. That's good. I just tried calling Autumn and she didn't pick up. I thought she might be mad at me. Casey gave a small chuckle. No, she went downstairs to take out the trash and didn't bring her phone. Right. She's soft-tempered. Never gets mad at me. Wait, how do you know she didn't bring her phone? Is she next to you? Put her on. I immediately turned around, worried Casey might hand me the phone. I had just agreed to be his girlfriend. Now Michael wanted to talk to me. It felt awkward no matter how I thought about it. But instead, Casey turned his back slightly, lowering his voice. She's not in a position to take the call. Just say whatever you want, I'll pass it along. Then tell her I wish her a happy birthday, and hope she can get into a relationship this year. Every time I take her out for dinner, I have to add an explanation so people don't mistake her for my girlfriend. Michael's teasing voice floated out lightly, making my embarrassment feel heavier. I clenched my hands, nails digging into my palms. Casey gave a low chuckle. That won't happen anymore. Michael paused for 2 seconds. Then his tone cooled. What do you mean? She's in a relationship? Casey stepped closer. With his free hand, he took mine. I froze and tried to pull away. but he locked our fingers tightly together, looking down into my eyes. He said softly, "Yeah, she's with me now. From now on, she's my girlfriend. If you've got nothing else, you can hang up." Chapter 3. He hung up the phone. Casey still didn't let go of my hand. "Do you have plans tomorrow?" I stared at the ground and softly said no. "Then I'll come pick you up tomorrow and take you out. It's getting pretty cold tonight. You should go upstairs first." I nodded. When he finally let go, I almost ran upstairs as if escaping. Casey called after me from behind, "Autumn, you won't change your mind, right?" I froze, but didn't dare turn around. "I won't." "That's good. If you do, I'll just pester you relentlessly." My face grew hot. Without looking back, I walked into the elevator. When I got home, I saw missed calls from Michael on my phone, just as I had expected, and a lot of messages. "Happy birthday, Autumn. I'm busy outside. Casey happened to pass by your place on a business trip, so I asked him to bring you the gift. Are you with him now? Since when? Why didn't you tell me? I've never seen you two talk much before. How did you end up dating? Did he pursue you and you were too embarrassed to reject him?" "Don't worry. I'll go talk to him." I stared at the messages, feeling stifled inside. I couldn't tell what it was. The satisfaction of revenge? Guilt toward Casey? Or maybe unwillingness, grievance. After thinking for a long time, I replied with a single Michael quickly called me, but I didn't want to answer, so I declined. He then sent another message. "Autumn, have you really thought this through?" "I have. I don't want to like you anymore." Another message popped up from Michael. "Do you like him?" I didn't know. The Casey I knew always carried a faint sense of distance at parties, but that handsome face and cool temperament often drew people to strike up a conversation. Tonight, he was the one who confessed. Surprised. I was also a little flustered. Now that I've calmed down, I feel maybe my agreement was a bit impulsive, but Casey might not be a bad choice. Michael, not getting a reply, called again. I accidentally picked up. "Autumn, are you really with Casey?" His voice over the phone was laced with anxiety. "So he can panic too?" I answered with a quiet mem. I then heard him curse irritably. "Casey forced you, didn't he? Damn it. He knows you're my sister and still made a move." "Autumn, you don't have to be afraid of him. I'll go talk to him." I cut him off and asked. "I'm not afraid of him. He said he likes me." So I agreed. "And you've never once told me you like me. So, what are you angry about?" Michael's fury came to an abrupt stop. Then came the sound of something shattering. A woman's startled voice followed, screaming and asking what was wrong. Suddenly, all those complicated emotions I had earlier seemed to vanish. Michael could belong to any woman, but he would never belong to me. I should have seen that long ago. I looked at the necklace Casey gave me, and softly said, "Michael, brother, I thought you would bless me." I used to always call him Michael by full name, and he'd say I was being rude. But why is it fine to call Casey by just his name? Yet when I call you brother, you're unhappy? On the other end, there was the sound of rustling, and Michael's voice tightened. "Autumn, wait for me. I'm coming back now. We'll talk face to face." The call ended, and Casey's message came in right then. "Autumn, if Michael comes back to find you, don't be soft-hearted, okay? Do me a favor, even if it's just for a week." I imagined what kind of expression Casey would have saying this, probably with helplessness, and a faint trace of indulgence. I couldn't help but smile, and replied with a okay. Chapter 4. Around 9 the next morning, Casey called to ask if I was awake. I hadn't even processed what was going on yet. "Is something the matter, Casey?" I heard him chuckle softly on the other end. "You forgot already after just one night's sleep?" That's when it hit me. I'd agreed to go on a date with him last night. I sat up in bed with a jolt. No. I didn't forget. I'll get up right now. Casey's smile deepened in his voice. "It's fine. No rush. Just let me know when you're ready." After hanging up, my heart was pounding. I buried my face in my hands, full of regret. Whenever I met Casey, Michael was always there too. Oh right, speaking of Michael, he said he'd come back to see me today. The more I thought about it, the messier it felt. Why did he freak out so much when he heard I was with Casey? It's not like he likes me. Why does he care who I'm with? Last night, I even heard a woman's voice next to him when we spoke on the phone. I steadied my mood, set Michael's WeChat to do not disturb, and forced myself not to think about him, since I'd already agreed to be with Casey. I should focus on him. When I finished dressing and went downstairs, I saw Casey's car parked below my building. His tall, slender frame leaned casually against the car door. He wore a cashmere coat, his posture lazy yet elegant. That usually indifferent face lit up with a smile the moment he saw me. He stepped toward me. Casey, sorry, I overslept. He gave a soft mem. So, how are you going to make it up to me? I hadn't expected him to say that, and froze on the spot. Then, I'll treat you to a meal? He came over smiling and took my hand. Sure, but I'd rather you agree to another condition. I had no idea what kind of condition Casey would bring up. But being late to our first date was indeed rude, so I could only bite the bullet and agree. All right, tell me, if it's something I can do. Change the way you address me. Don't call me Casey. Huh? Then what should I call you? Kaz. After he said it, he lowered his gaze to look at me, a hint of expectation in his eyes. I mouthed the word Kaz in my mind once. When I was about to say it out loud, it felt almost too hot to touch. Kaz. My voice was barely above a whisper, but Casey still heard it. The smile at the corners of his lips deepened, and he replied to me with deliberate seriousness. I'm here. Putting aside the fact that we were dating, Casey's smile was truly lethal, especially when you knew that smile was because of you. It made you feel even more shy. I blushed and quickly changed the subject. Let's get something to eat. I'm hungry. Without another word, Casey laced our fingers together. He seemed to really like holding hands like that. Last night, when I agreed to be with him, he held my hand the same way, but I wasn't very used to it. After lunch, Casey took me to an art exhibition. Kaz, aren't you here on a business trip? If the company's busy, we can skip the exhibition. You should go back first. Casey's family wanted him to return and run their company, but he said that before turning 30. He wanted to start his own business. In the past, whenever there were gatherings, he'd only stay for a short while before leaving, and during the event, his phone and email never stopped. In my mind, he was busier than a workhorse CEO. But today, during lunch, he hadn't looked at his phone even once, and now, he wanted to take me to an art show. He told me lightly that he'd already handled all the company matters last night. Today's time was entirely mine. I blushed but pretended to stay calm. Casey, I'm not a child. I don't need you to keep me company. Oh, then I'm the child, so I need you to keep me company. Help, my face just got hotter. Chapter 5. On the way to the art exhibition, Michael's call came in. I hesitated, wondering whether to answer. Casey glanced at my phone. Go ahead. Maybe it's something urgent. I thought about it, then shook my head. What could be urgent? The next second, Casey's phone rang. It was Michael calling. Casey looked at me. Should I answer? I quickly averted my gaze. Do whatever you want. You don't have to ask me. Then I won't pick up either. He was already pestering me last night, so it turned out Michael hadn't only called me yesterday. He probably drank too much. Every time he's drunk, he gets really long-winded. I muttered under my breath, but Casey heard me clearly. I handle alcohol well. When I'm drunk, I just sleep obediently. Of course, most of the time, I don't drink at all. He wasn't lying. But why did it feel so strange? Was he comparing his drinking habits with Michael's? What's there to compare? Michael kept calling, one after another. I finally just switched my phone to airplane mode. By the time we finished the art exhibition and headed back, it was nearly dark. Casey stopped the car downstairs at my place. I unbuckled my seatbelt, planning to say goodbye and head upstairs, but the car doors stayed locked. Puzzled, I turned to look at Casey. The soft interior light lit up, casting a gentle glow on his sharp profile. He turned his gaze to me, and in those dark eyes was a meaning I couldn't read. Well, I'm home now, so I'll go up. Casey blinked. Can you stay for another 5 minutes? Fine, just 5 minutes. I could sit for a bit longer. I sat upright, waiting for the time to pass. Suddenly, Casey reached out and turned on the music. Well, that was fine too. Otherwise, sitting here in silence for 5 minutes would be awkward. The intro of the song he chose was beautiful, or it would have been, if not for his heated gaze making it impossible to focus. While I was lost in my thoughts, Casey suddenly unfastened his seatbelt. Click. The sound was sharp and clear. I froze instantly. That familiar cologne drifted closer and closer. Casey took my hand, slowly tracing from my fingertips to my palm. A shiver ran through me. It was like an electric shock. I even forgot to pull my hand back. Autumn. I want to kiss you. Boom, like fireworks exploding in my mind. Chapter 6. When Casey finally let me go. The music had just ended. 5 minutes. Aside from the 40-second intro. He had kissed me for a full 4 minutes and 20 seconds. I tried to steady my breathing, but my heart was pounding wildly in my chest. Casey's gaze had never once left me, and I was too timid to lift my head to look at him. Autumn. Thank you for agreeing to be my girlfriend. Today has been the happiest day of my life. My voice was barely audible. From now on, when we're together, it can be like just now. You can tell me to stop anytime. Casey's voice was low and husky. I couldn't help but recall that moment earlier, when he leaned in so close that our breaths tangled together. His nose lightly brushing my cheek. And in that same soft tone, whispering into my ear, I've wanted to kiss you since I saw you this morning. I've been thinking about it until now. So, if you want to refuse, you can tell me to stop anytime. I had shut my eyes tightly in nervousness, until a warm kiss brushed gently against my lips, when I didn't pull away. Casey's kiss, which had started soft and tentative, grew deeper, hotter, almost possessive, making my mind go completely blank, letting him lead the rhythm entirely. This time, I didn't even want to say mem. All I heard was Casey murmuring to himself, but selfishly, I hope you'll never tell me to stop. Never reject me. Holding my hand, Casey walked me upstairs. I stayed silent the whole way, but when the elevator doors opened, I was met with the sight of Michael leaning against my apartment door. There were several cigarette butts scattered on the ground. I had no idea how long he'd been waiting. I stared at him in shock. I had thought he was bluffing when he said he'd come find me. Michael looked like he hadn't slept all night. A little haggard, when his eyes fell on mine and Casey's intertwined hands. His expression darkened. Autumn. Come here. Chapter 7. In the past. If he had come looking for me alone, I wouldn't have waited for him to speak. I'd have walked right over, hiding my excitement as I asked why he had the time to see me. But today, I stayed frozen where I was. I didn't move, didn't speak. I didn't want to go to him. I had already made a wish not to like him anymore, and I had promised Casey to be with him, whatever Michael's reason for coming. I didn't want to care anymore. Seeing me play deaf, Michael started to panic. Autumn, be good. Come here to me. Casey stepped forward, shielding me behind him, and said, Michael, if you have something to say to Autumn, just say it directly. We don't treat you as an outsider. The moment the words left his mouth, Michael gave an angry, mocking laugh. Not an outsider? Casey, do you really not know what my relationship with Autumn is? Of all the people you could mess with, you just had to go after her, right under my nose. Casey clicked his tongue. You and Autumn. Haven't you always said she's like a sister to you? And for the record, I like Autumn. I'm seriously pursuing her. For a long-term relationship, not a fling. I stood quietly to the side, saying nothing. Michael was momentarily at a loss for words, anger flickering in his eyes. He stepped forward, grabbed Casey's collar, and raised his fist. Michael, brother. I quickly spoke up to stop him. Michael froze at the sound, his arms stiff in the air. And he turned to look at me. What, did you just call me? Clutching Casey's hand tightly, I looked back at Michael. Michael, brother, can you stop making a scene? This is my first date. I want to keep it as a happy memory. And Kaz is right, you've always introduced me to others as your sister. Michael let go. swaying slightly. He stared at me in disbelief. Autumn, what did you just call him? Chapter 8. I was 5 years old the first time I met Michael. He smiled brightly and said I'd grown taller. I hid timidly behind my mom, listening to him say, "I'm Michael, brother Michael, when you were little. I even held you. Back then, you were this small, like a little doll. Don't you remember?" I stared at his face, trying hard to recall the scene he described, but I had no memory of it. Mom said I was too young back then to remember anything, and nudged me forward to play with Michael. Michael took my hand and led me to see his room. I kept glancing back at Mom every few steps. Her eyes were red, but she forced a smile and waved at me, telling me to go and play without worry. Michael's palm was warm. It had been a long time since I'd played with another kid. I got caught up in the fun. But when I finally came downstairs, Mom was gone. I burst into tears, wanting to look for her. But Michael's mother hugged me and said Mom had something to do and had left. She would come pick me up in a few days. Michael tried to comfort me too, saying I was grown up now and couldn't always cling to my mom. He'd keep me company instead, and if I ever got bored, he could even call his friend over so the three of us could play together. That night, it was Michael who slept beside me. He said he'd wait with me until Mom came back. That wait lasted 10 years. During those 10 years, whenever Michael went out to play, he took me with him. Michael's first relationship was during the summer before his junior year of high school. Mom had asked me to spend that summer at his house for tutoring. One day, I went to find him with a math test in hand. The door wasn't locked. Inside, I heard strange sounds. I pushed it open just a crack, and saw Michael pressed against a girl by the desk, kissing her. They were so absorbed they didn't even notice me. Frozen in shock, I turned and bolted, but accidentally knocked into a framed painting on the wall. Michael came running out after me. There was a faint bite mark on his lips, and a helpless smile in his eyes. Autumn has to keep this a secret for her brother, okay? I stared at his face and nodded gently. Michael was handsome and knew how to make girls happy. His girlfriends changed constantly, and from that day on, his hand never held mine again. After that, whenever Michael dated someone new, he would bring her over and casually point at me, saying, "This is my sister," and I would obediently call her sister-in-law. Then, I'd quietly study her to see what made her so attractive. As expected, Michael's taste never changed. His girlfriends were always fair-skinned, with great figures, and full of feminine charm. And to him, I would always be the little sister who couldn't grow up and stopped crying only when coaxed. It took me a long time to finally give up liking him. So why did he have to come looking for me now? Michael. My hand is already held by someone else. Chapter 9. I looked at Michael and said lightly, "If you've made enough of a scene, go home. Fighting at your age, really unattractive." Michael stepped back, leaning against the wall as if his soul had left him. I let go of Casey's hand. "You should go too. I had a great time today. See you tomorrow." Casey ruffled my hair, his smile gentle. "All right, sleep early. If you can't, call me anytime." He always seemed to sense my emotions so easily, even predicting that I'd definitely have trouble sleeping tonight. I murmured an and closed the door. Out in the hallway, the smile faded from Casey's face as soon as I was out of sight. He turned, tilting his head slightly to glance at Michael. The look in his eyes wasn't exactly disdain, but it was far from friendly. "Michael, we've been friends for years. Take my advice, know when to stop." Michael slowly lifted his head. "Know when to stop. That's something you should be telling yourself." "Casey, Autumn grew up with us. Don't you know her family situation? Or are you confident your family will accept her?" Casey's expression cooled, a chill emanating from his entire body. He glanced at Michael, the corner of his lips curling faintly. "I'm not like you, seeking momentary pleasure. If I could wait until now to confess, it means I've already paved the way ahead." Michael frowned. "Don't forget, your father's already arranged a fiancé for you." Casey let out a soft, mocking laugh. "His arrangement still needs my consent. We've known each other long enough, but it seems you still don't really understand me." A sudden unease stirred in Michael's chest. He knew all too well that Casey had always been the type to get what he wanted, no matter how many obstacles stood in his way. Michael had once joked that Casey wasn't just cold in looks, his temperament was even colder. In Casey's eyes, there was only gain and loss, benefit and cost. That's why Michael had never imagined Casey would make a move on Autumn. Because Autumn was different to him. She was pure, obedient, no matter when. As long as Michael turned around, her eyes were always on him. It wasn't as though he'd never considered that Autumn would one day date someone. In fact, he'd even asked her about it. What had she said back then? Oh, she'd said she didn't like other boys. And after she said it, she had looked at him with those autumn water eyes. Something had rippled in Michael's heart then. He stepped forward, closing the distance with Casey, the tension between them sharp as drawn blades. And when Michael caught sight of the faint cut on Casey's lower lip, the pressure snapped. What the hell did you do to her? Michael's rage came exactly as Casey had expected. Michael grabbed Casey by the collar. But Casey didn't fight back. Instead, he raised his hand, brushing his fingertips lightly over the cut, and then smiled. What's with the act? Haven't you ever been bitten by a girlfriend before? Chapter 10. After going back to my room, I immediately ran a bath. That was my way to de-stress. Soaking myself in warm water, turning on some music, and just spacing out. Michael's expression today had unsettled me. His anger had come out of nowhere. From his words, I could tell he hadn't come back because he was jealous. It was simply because Casey was his close friend. And we had gotten together without a word. Right under his nose. It had bruised his pride. I submerged my face under the water, holding my breath until my head swam, then surfaced again, gasping for fresh air. Forget the earlier frustration. I shouldn't keep letting one look or a thoughtless comment from Michael send me spiraling. I needed to give my time and attention back to myself. What I should be asking was I happy today? While drying my face, the toner stung where it touched my lips. That sharp pain pulled me back into the memory. I thought again of that lingering kiss in the car, and how, when Casey finally stopped, he rested his forehead against mine and asked, Autumn, that was my first kiss. Was my technique bad? How would I know? I didn't have any experience either. The way Casey acted in a relationship was a complete reversal from the image I'd always had of him. Pressing my hot face into my hands, I told myself, since I'd agreed, I should just enjoy it. Besides, he'd said I could stop him anytime. After my bath, I found several new messages on my phone. Some from Casey, some from Michael. I hadn't replied to Michael at all today. When I opened his chat, I saw a flood of texts. First, asking where I was, why I wasn't answering calls. The most recent ones were apologies. Autumn, before, I didn't dare face my feelings for you. I always felt I wasn't good enough for you, but I didn't expect to lose you so quickly. You're with Casey to spite me, aren't you? Can you give me a chance? Let me and Casey compete fairly. I'll never ignore you again. A sour ache welled in my chest. My eyes stung, and I almost cried. But what was there to apologize for? I had already forgiven the me who had loved you for 7 years. As for fairness, there's no such thing in love. I would never demand you give as much as I did, and you shouldn't expect that giving me a little kindness would make me turn back. I didn't reply to Michael's messages. Instead, I opened Casey's chat. He'd sent me a photo, taken on his own sofa at home. He must have just showered. His hair was still damp. He was in pajamas, and his chest muscles showed faintly. My face flushed. Was he doing it on purpose? But when I looked closer, I noticed a red swelling on his chin, stark against his fair skin. I quickly typed, "Did you two fight?" The typing indicator blinked for ages, but no message came through. I got impatient and called him on video. He answered right away. "What happened to your face? Was it Michael?" Casey leaned closer, his handsome features filling my screen. He rubbed his nose. Evasive. "Just a small disagreement. Nothing. Your face is injured and you say it's nothing?" Casey angled himself so only the uninjured half of his face showed. His voice turned low. "Don't look, Autumn. I'm ruined. Not good looking anymore." I was speechless. Was this really about being good looking or not? Why didn't they think about their faces when they were fighting? I told him to remember to put on medicine and was about to hang up, but Casey spoke quickly. Autumn, are you going to check on him? Chapter 11. I didn't understand why he would think that way. Casey's eyes looked dejected, yet he still tried to act magnanimous. I know, you still can't help but care about him. It's fine, as long as the first call you make is to me. I couldn't stand that pitiful expression of his, like a wronged little wife who'd been bullied but didn't dare fight back. Casey, I am going to find Michael, but not because I want to care for him. I want to ask him why he hit my boyfriend. Casey lifted his head, the corners of his lips tugging upward despite himself. Autumn, you're so good to me. I'll go put on medicine right now. I pressed my hand to my forehead helplessly. I'd never realized before that Casey was the jealous, clingy type. Taking a deep breath, I dialed Michael's number. Autumn? His voice was full of surprise. From the noisy background music, I could tell he was probably at a bar again. Michael, I have something to say to you. All right, hold on. A moment later, he moved to a quieter place. His breathing was still uneven when he hurriedly asked, Autumn, you're finally willing to talk to me. Is it because I didn't come back yesterday for your birthday, and you're angry with me? I'm sorry, I'll make it up to you next year. Michael, I said his name coldly. Why did you hate Casey? You two have been friends for so many years. Is it really necessary to fall out just because I'm with him? The moment I mentioned Casey, Michael's breathing grew heavier. He told on me? I got hurt too. Why aren't you worried about me? That Casey, has he ever treated me like a friend? He's had filthy intentions toward you for a long time. Don't be fooled by him. Autumn, listen to me. Break up with him. You and he won't have a future. I let out a long sigh and asked in return, Michael, when you were with those other girls, did you ever think about a future? On the other end, he went silent. If Casey didn't have feelings for me, why would he bother to pursue me? I may never have dated before, but I'm not stupid. When Casey confessed to me, he told me that in this relationship, I could stop him anytime I wanted. He's always respected me, always put my feelings first. As he said, all I need to do is enjoy the happiness he brings me while we're together. Does the outcome matter? No. I spent 7 years liking Michael, and never once got a I like you in return. I spent 10 years waiting for Mom to say sorry, and never got an explanation for why she left without a word back then. So, Michael, I want to have one proper relationship. Preferably one where he loves me more. So please, don't disturb me. You're not short of one person's love. Chapter 12. After I finished speaking, I hung up before Michael could respond. From that night on, Michael quieted down a lot. My relationship with Casey, on the other hand, grew steadily closer. He was a good boyfriend, always attentive to my feelings. With him, I didn't have to tread carefully. On the last day before winter break, Casey kissed me in the car for a long time, unwilling to let go. Burying his face against my shoulder, he muttered, Are you really not going to let me visit you over break? 20 days, how am I supposed to survive that? I couldn't help but laugh. He'd made it through all the years before this, and now 20 days was unbearable? Clinging to my waist, Casey pouted. Back then, I could only imagine what it would feel like to hold you. Now that I've actually done it, it's so hard to go without. His words made my face heat up, and I gave him a little push. That's enough. Go home and spend the new year with your uncle and the rest. I'll call you. Casey lifted his head, looking straight into my eyes. Then kiss me again. I couldn't stand the way he looked at me, but thinking about being apart for 20 days, my resolve softened. I raised my hand to cover his eyes, then leaned down and kissed his lips. After break began, Mom was still hardly ever home. Sometimes I'd go 2 or 3 days without seeing her. It didn't matter, I'd long since learned not to rely on anyone. Casey called me every day, sometimes for half an hour, sometimes just a few minutes. He'd say I didn't miss him, that I never took the initiative to contact him. I'd just press my lips together and smile, letting him complain. One day, Mom came home unusually early. I was lying on the sofa reading when she walked in. Her first words were to ask if I'd cooked dinner. I got up to boil dumplings for her, That's when she spoke again. Tomorrow. Buy something and go to Michael's house. Have him come pick you up. I turned on the gas stove. A click as the fire lit, and answered at the same time. No need. I can take the bus myself. She didn't hear me clearly and raised her voice. What did you say? Not wanting to shout, I stepped out of the kitchen and repeated. I said I'll go myself. No need to have him pick me up. She stared at me, the once beautiful eyes I remembered now framed with fine lines. That former gentle gaze had turned sharp, appraising. I turned back toward the kitchen, only to hear her suddenly let out a short laugh behind me. Had a fight with Michael? I froze. Her stare on my back made my skin prickle. No, I just don't want to trouble anyone. I thought my tone had been perfectly casual, revealing nothing, but she still saw through me. Normally, the moment you come home on break, you run straight to Michael's house. When you see him, your smile nearly splits your face. This time, you've been home for days. Just hold up reading. You two must have had a problem. Her certainty inexplicably irritated me. Stop making wild guesses. There's nothing between us. She gave a cold snort. Autumn. When I left you at Michael's house back then, eating and living with him, I didn't expect you to be completely useless. Michael's gone through one girlfriend after another, so why hasn't it ever been you? It felt like everyone knew my feelings, except Michael himself, and now, my own mother was mocking me with them. I stared at the blue flame on the stove, feeling the fire in my chest burn hotter and hotter. She kept going. I'm telling you, you'd better work harder. That Michael kid is wild. If you can't hold on to him, you'll have a hard time finding someone better. Don't just sit there like an idiot. Men like girls who take the initiative. Later, when I have Michael come pick you up, go get a pair of stockings from my wardrobe, put on a skirt, doll yourself up, and coax him. Chapter 13. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. Steam filled the air, and the boiling water was about to spill over the edge of the pot. Plump dumplings tumbled over and over in the rolling water. Just a few more minutes and they'd be done. With a sharp click, I turned off the stove, and I started wondering, was she really my mother? Maybe the year she abandoned me at age 5, she'd been swapped with someone else. Why couldn't I see even a trace of the woman who used to love me? I scooped out the half-cooked dumplings, set them on the dining table. So fast? What filling are they? I stared at her back for a moment before saying coldly, Mom, I have nothing to do with Michael. Don't bring it up again. Of course. She wouldn't listen. While I was in my room drawing with headphones on, Michael had already arrived at my house. The lock on my bedroom door had been broken by her during a past argument, so I couldn't lock it. When Michael silently appeared behind me, I was startled. What are you doing here? Seeing how flustered I looked, Michael gave a bitter smile. Auntie asked me to pick you up. I called you several times but you didn't answer, so I came in to check. Did I scare you? Sorry. Since that last conversation, Michael and I hadn't met. In just over a month, he had grown thinner, the unruly arrogance in him replaced by loneliness. Michael's parents had been good to me. Every New Year and holiday, I had to visit them. We'd still have to sit at the same table to eat, so I didn't want to make things too ugly between us. It's fine. No need to apologize. Go wait outside. I'll be ready in a minute. I put on a long black down coat. Didn't bother washing my hair. Just pulled on a hat and left. On the road, Michael kept glancing at me in the rearview mirror, probably displeased that I hadn't taken the passenger seat. I kept my head down playing on my phone. When I came across a funny video, I even laughed out loud, treating Michael completely like a driver. As we neared his house, snow pellets began to fall. Michael slowed down. Are you chatting with him? Without looking up, I replied vaguely, I knew he meant Casey, but I hadn't messaged Casey at all. If he knew I was in Michael's car right now, he'd be jealous. Hard to coax back to normal, and it would take several kisses. Michael's hands tightened on the steering wheel, his voice rough. Autumn, just listen to me this once. Break up with Casey. His family's already arranged a marriage for him. The deeper you fall, the easier it'll be for him to walk away when the time comes, and you won't be able to take it. I kept my eyes on the window, silent. Michael suddenly pulled over. got out and came to the back seat. The familiar scent of him made me instinctively want to move away, but it was like Michael had lost his mind. He gripped my shoulders, his voice hoarse with pleading. Autumn, trust me, I won't hurt you. Michael, let go of me. Pain thudded in my shoulders. I couldn't break free. His grip was so tight it was as if he feared I'd run the moment he loosened it. Autumn, it was my fault before, pretending not to see how you felt about me. Please forgive me, okay? We can be like before, no. This time I'll be the one liking you. You can ignore me all you want. And then, without warning, he bent down and kissed me, desperate and urgent. Chapter 14. I twisted my head desperately. His kiss landed on the edge of my ear, and I finally couldn't hold back my tears. Michael, don't make me hate you. Michael froze against me, no longer moving, but I couldn't stop crying. Fear and anger made my whole body tremble. At that moment, I missed Casey's clean, warm embrace so much. He would never force me. Every time he kissed me, he always asked for my consent first. Sometimes it was playful teasing, but if I said no, he truly respected it, never pushing. Seeing how badly I was crying, Michael finally let go of me. It was as if his soul had been pulled out of him. He slumped to the side, running a hand harshly through his hair. I'm sorry. Autumn, I'm an asshole. My limbs were still weak, but I struggled to move toward the window to open the door. Michael noticed and grabbed my hand. I shrieked at him to get away, then slapped him hard across the face. The blow landed cleanly. Michael, who had been surrounded by admirers all his life, had probably never been slapped before. I was past caring. Through my tears, I shouted at him, "Stop lying to yourself, you can't do it. I waited for you for 7 years. Could you? You got so angry just seeing me hold hands with Casey that you hurt him. If Casey and I did something more intimate, you'd only go even crazier. But back then, you took different girls on dates, even kissed them right in front of me. You'll never understand what that feels like. Michael, I can't keep staring at your back, waiting for you to turn around. You'll regret it, and I'll wake up. Let me go. I just want to live a life that's mine." Michael looked at me deeply, his eyes slowly turning red. His Adam's apple bobbed, and after a long while, he choked out, "All right." I thought he had finally come to his senses, but then he said, "I'll wait until you break up." Chapter 15. After dropping off the gifts at Michael's house, his mom, as usual, invited me to stay for dinner. I refused, lying that my boyfriend was coming to pick me up. In truth, I hadn't told Casey anything, but when his mom heard that, she was visibly shocked. She turned to Michael. "Autumn's dating? With who?" "Michael, do you know? Did you help check him out?" From the moment I walked in today, Michael had barely spoken. Even a blind man could tell he was in a bad mood. Now, without looking back, he muttered, "Yeah, you know him, Casey's family." His mom froze, then quickly reacted. "Casey?" That caught his dad's attention too. He turned to look at me. I felt so awkward I didn't know where to put my hands or feet. All I wanted was to get out of there. Thankfully, Michael came to my rescue. He stood, grabbing both our coats. "All right. Stop prying. I'll take her to the bus station. Once the snow gets heavier, it'll be harder to travel." The snow outside was falling thicker and thicker. When we reached the station, Michael grabbed an umbrella. "He's not coming to pick you up, is he?" I nodded lightly. "No, because I didn't tell him I was coming here." Michael hesitated. "Autumn, since he's not here, can I take you instead?" "No need. The bus will get me home in no time." I was afraid he'd repeat what had happened earlier, so I didn't even want the umbrella, just turned to leave. Michael's long strides caught up to me, and he grabbed my arm. "Take the umbrella, you'll get soaked." Snow pattered softly against the umbrella. Michael stood there in the snow, his eyes rimmed red from the cold. "Autumn, don't be so afraid of me, okay? Even if you don't like me anymore, don't push me away. Just, when we see each other, say hello. Don't pretend you don't know me." I kept my gaze on the ground, murmuring a quiet okay. As I entered the station, I folded up the umbrella. Looking back, through the blur of snow, Michael was still standing by his car. Snow had gathered on his shoulders. And he didn't move at all. I turned away and let out a long sigh. My chest felt heavy, and I found myself missing Casey a little. Chapter 16. When I got home, it was already dark. My phone had been unusually quiet all day. Several times, I hesitated over whether to call Casey. But then I thought, if he hadn't contacted me, maybe he was busy. Better not to bother him. I buried myself in bed and slept. When I woke up the next day, there was still not a single message from him. Even the snow photo I had posted on my WeChat moments, he hadn't given it a like. A faint, uneasy feeling crept into my chest. Had something happened to Casey? All sorts of guesses gnawed at me for the entire day. By evening, the heavy snow had covered the roads. My mom still wasn't back from playing mahjong. The house was, as always, just me. Suddenly, I really wanted to see Casey. For the first time, I decided to call him, but he didn't pick up. I told myself it was fine, he must just be too busy. But when the sky turned completely dark, I started to panic. Other than Michael, I had no one else I could ask about Casey. Michael was surprised that I had reached out to him first. Autumn? What's wrong? His voice was tinged with barely contained joy. But when he heard me asking about Casey, that excitement quickly faded. Oh, he's not at the office, he went back to the family estate. Casey's family arranged a marriage alliance for him. It was already planned to be made public by the end of the year. Right now, he can't get away. It took me a while to fully process what he meant. Casey was getting engaged, and from start to finish, he hadn't said a single word about it to me. Michael sighed softly. Autumn, I told you, you two can't have a future. All right, I understand. I quickly hung up and curled up on the sofa. It felt like a hole had been punched in my chest, and the icy wind from outside was whistling right through it. No wonder he said I could call things off anytime. Turns out this relationship was never really his to decide. I felt awful, yet I couldn't cry. I sat there in a daze for a while, then sent Casey a message. Casey, let's break up. Wrapped in a blanket, I drifted into a shallow sleep on the sofa. It wasn't until the middle of the night that my phone's vibration jolted me awake. Half asleep, I answered. On the other end came a low voice. Hello, Miss Autumn. I'm Mr. Casey's secretary. I'm sorry to disturb you. But may I ask if Mr. Casey is with you right now? Chapter 17. The moment he asked that question, every hair on my body stood on end. You mean Casey? He's not here. The other person simply said, sorry to bother you, and hung up. A wave of panic surged through me. I didn't even care about the breakup message I just sent him. I called Casey several more times. Thank God, he finally picked up. Autumn. The instant I heard his voice, the tension inside me snapped. Casey, where did you go? Why didn't you answer when I called you so many times? Even if you're going through with that marriage alliance, you don't have to pull a disappearing act and scare me like this, do you? I didn't even say I'd blame you. It's just a breakup. We could at least say goodbye properly. As I spoke, my voice started to choke. Casey went quiet. After a long moment, he let out a sigh. Who said we were breaking up? I don't agree. I've been driving for over 10 hours straight. I'm exhausted. Baby, turn on the light and stand by the window so I can see you, okay? I froze, turning toward the window. I didn't even bother to switch on the light. I ran over barefoot, through the white blur of snow. A black Maybach sat parked downstairs. Under the dim streetlight, Casey stood by the car. His head tilted up toward me. Over the phone, he chuckled. Got you. Now I'm not tired at all. My nose stung, and tears nearly spilled out. I dashed downstairs without thinking twice. I didn't even hang up the call, hearing the quick thud of my footsteps. Casey's warm voice came through. It's freezing down here. Don't come out. I couldn't stop myself from snapping at him. You knew it was cold and still drove here? Just as I reached the first floor, I saw Casey striding toward me. He opened his arms, and I threw myself into them. The chill of his coat wrapped tightly around me, with my arms around his waist. I muttered, half complaining, I told you not to come find me. What if something happened to you on the road in the snow? Casey lowered his head, brushing the top of my hair, and his cold lips brushed gently against my cheek. But I missed you too much. I loosened my hold and looked up at him. Did you get the message I sent you? Casey pulled up our chat. This one? I nodded. Right in front of me. He deleted the breakup message. Then, as if it was nothing, he said, I took a shortcut, but there was no signal on the way. Made me miss my girlfriend's calls. I deserve a beating for that. Chapter 18. Casey took my hand and gently patted his own cheek with it. I quickly pulled my hand back. He couldn't just play around like that. Deleting it doesn't change anything. I already know. Your family arranged a marriage alliance for you. They're urging you to get married. Casey frowned slightly and let out a helpless sigh. TSK. Michael told you, didn't he? It wasn't a question. It was a statement. I knew he couldn't keep his hands clean. First he hit me, and now he's sabotaging me behind my back. My fault. I didn't want you to misunderstand, so I didn't tell you. Yes, the marriage alliance is my family's arrangement, and they want me to go back to help manage the company, but I refused. I have my own career, and I have my own love. Once I've made a decision, I don't change it easily, unless you tell me you don't want me anymore. I froze for a moment. If he could delete my breakup message right in front of me, then even if I said I didn't want him, he would definitely find some other way to play dumb and pretend he didn't hear it. But, your secretary even called me. Casey's expression cooled, his voice dropping a few degrees. He's one of my father's people. I'll handle it. So that was it. Knowing he hadn't meant to hide anything from me, I quietly let out a breath. Casey hooked a finger into my palm, lacing our fingers together one by one. Autumn, you have to believe me. I waited so long for you to give up on him. How could I possibly let you go so easily? I lowered my gaze, looking at the hem of his pants soaked with melted snow. Softly, I asked, got it. Are you cold? Do you want to come to my place for a bit? Casey's eyes lit up. Is it time to meet the parents already? But it's too late tonight. I'll come visit another day. What are you thinking? There's no one at my place. Casey's lips curved upward. Oh, then I definitely can't go in. I'll just find a hotel for the night. I'm exhausted after driving all this way. Baby, can you hug me again? With his long arms, he pulled me back into his embrace. I couldn't resist him when he acted spoiled. The moment he showed weakness, my heart would soften. I took a deep breath and said, then, I'll go with you. Casey froze for a second, his voice turning husky. You're going to stay with me? My face burned against his chest. I missed you too. Casey didn't reply. He only held me tighter. My home was always dark and empty, with only me inside. The warmth of Casey's arms and his presence made me feel safe. I thought, as long as he kept treating me this well, I would never be the one to end this relationship. Chapter 19. Casey stayed at the hotel for 2 days. Once the roads were cleared, he had to head back. I stood by the roadside to say goodbye. Sitting in his car, he looked at me with longing eyes. I want to take you with me. Come on. The break will be over in a few days anyway. But I already miss you, and I haven't even left yet. This man, with that cold, stern face, could say things so earnestly that they made my heart race and my cheeks burn. You can still call me, can't you? Go on now. Drive safe. Casey had only driven a short distance before suddenly stopping again. He pushed open the door and ran straight toward me. What? Before I could finish, he pulled me into his arms and kissed me. It was fierce and urgent. I panicked. This was a public street. What if someone we knew saw us? Breathing heavily, Casey finally let me go, his voice hoarse beyond recognition. Wait for me. No. I'll wait for you. When you graduate, I'll propose. If you don't want to say yes, I'll keep waiting. I'll wait until I'm old and undesirable, and then cry my way into your life. He made me laugh, and whatever sadness I'd felt about saying goodbye vanished completely. That's emotional blackmail. Sorry, but I don't have any moral bottom line. He bent down to peck my lips again. Perfect. I have even less. After a few more minutes of fooling around, I finally managed to get him to leave. I watched his car merge into traffic, turning to head home. The smile on my face disappeared the moment I saw Michael. "What are you doing here?" Michael's expression was grim. "You saw everything?" He didn't answer, just stared at me. I didn't want to get tangled up with him anymore. "I'm leaving." I deliberately walked around him, but he still grabbed my arm. "Michael, let go. Does your mother know?" "She doesn't need to, so you're not planning to make it public?" I looked at him calmly. "Michael, I'm not saying anything because I know my mother. She knows Casey's background. She'd only be eager to marry me off to him. Just like when she wanted her own freedom. She left me at your house, hoping I could win you over. I don't owe her, and I don't owe you. Whatever happens between Casey and me in the future is nobody else's business. So please, don't make trouble for me." His eyes grew red as he slowly let go, looking at his lost expression. I almost said something to comfort him, but I was afraid it would give him the wrong idea. "Goodbye, Michael." I turned away without hesitation. In my pocket, my phone buzzed twice. It was a message from Casey. "Baby, will you miss me? I'm already missing you. And a little crying puppy sticker. Smiling faintly, I replied, "No, looking at your phone while driving." I didn't tell him that I was just like him, already missing him before we'd even parted, because the future was long, and there was no rush just yet. Story 2. My daughter pointed to my high school graduation photo and asked, "Who's the best-looking boy in there?" I paused for a few seconds. "He was someone Mommy liked for many years." "Why didn't you two get married?" "Because he always preferred girls prettier than me. In the year when things were at their worst, I decided to get married, hoping he would regret it. Only later did I realize that I could love someone else." Chapter 01. On the day I was helping a teacher grade papers in the office, my mind was racing. I'm doomed. Eric must have left by now. The entire semester, I'd secretly trailed behind him, pretending we were walking home together. I told myself that the day I couldn't keep up, I would stop liking him. By the time I walked back down the hallway, all the students cleaning up had left. Feeling disappointed, I returned to the classroom, only to find Eric there, sitting in my seat, casually flipping through a book. I asked, "Why haven't you left yet?" Up until then, we hadn't exchanged more than 3 sentences. "Waiting for you." "Silly," he replied. I thought he might actually like me. He'd often arrive late to class, bringing breakfast, a steamed bun and soy milk, right before the teacher arrived, and would place it on my desk. After the school basketball game, he'd push through the crowd just to ask, "Lisa, who were you watching just now?" He'd sneak his phone into school and hand me an earbud during evening study to share the latest album from my favorite artist. But then, after one summer, he suddenly distanced himself from me, until one day, during PE class, I accidentally saw him alone with a new, pretty transfer student in an empty classroom. "Someone might see us," she said. "You don't want to?" he teased, his voice carrying that usual playful edge. The transfer student playfully pushed him. "Eric, you're so annoying," people whispered. "Eric's moved on already? That fast? Just look at her, she's gorgeous, while Lisa's so ugly and ordinary." All guys like pretty girls. When it was time to fill out our college applications, Eric got early admission to the top university in the north, while I chose a teacher's college in the far south, as far from him as possible. After graduation, we went our separate ways. I didn't even add him on WeChat. On the hottest day of my sophomore year, after finishing class, I was holed up in my dorm watching a show. My roommate, who'd just come back from a date, burst in, exclaiming, "Oh my gosh, did you see him? There's a super hot guy standing downstairs, and no one knows who he's waiting for." "From our department?" someone asked. "No way. I've never seen him before." They all crowded by the window, pulling me down to take a look. I peeked out and saw Eric surrounded by onlookers. His hands were in his pockets, and he looked up, smiling at me. I took him around our school, showed him the night market, just as an ordinary high school friend. "When are you heading back?" We walked through the underpass, surrounded by skaters and people singing with guitars. The noise almost drowned out my voice. But he still heard me. My flight's at midnight. In such a hurry? Yeah, I've got an 8 a.m. class tomorrow. I walked in front, and he followed behind me. We passed a few boys from my department who greeted me. Climbing up the steps, under the streetlight, Eric took my hand. I turned my head, and he hooked his little finger around mine, asking, "Lisa, don't you miss me?" He was always like this. Just when I was about to give up, he'd suddenly show up. All through the first semester of my junior year, Eric and I talked every day, despite the more than 2,000 kilometers between us. He said the dorm's washing machine was broken and he had to wait in a long line for hot water. I told him I had a lot of classes that day and that I'd call him later. He replied, with a smile in his voice. It's not like I haven't waited before. I'd wait for class to end, watching the clock on the wall. "Lisa, want to go to the cafeteria?" "No, you guys go," I said, holding my books as I walked out. "I'll head back to the dorm first." I squeezed my way down the stairs, pushed by the crowd. My mind was filled with just one face, Lisa, until a familiar voice called my name. There, in front of the crowded teaching building 3, stood the one I couldn't stop thinking about. The one who said he'd wait for my call, Eric. This year, the money he spent on plane tickets to see me could have covered my tuition for 4 years. Everyone thought I had a rich, extravagant, and incredibly clingy handsome boyfriend. Sometimes I wondered if, when Eric loved someone, he did it without any limits. One afternoon near the end of my junior year, I ran back to the dorm in the rain after an exam, earphones in, talking to him as I walked down the corridor. Below, at the dorm entrance, couples were bidding each other reluctant goodbyes. In my ear, Eric said he had something to tell me. "Lisa, I like someone." He said that because I was his best friend. I was the first one he wanted to tell. He showed me a picture of the girl. She was beautiful. Exactly the kind of mixed-race looking girl he always liked. "Eric, friends don't hold hands." I blocked him. I cut off all contact. Clean and clear. And he never tried to reach out again. It was as if my leaving didn't make him sad at all. Not even a little bit. I began to obsess over my appearance. As if in revenge, whitening my skin, wearing makeup, doing anything to make myself look prettier. I started to lose track. Was I trying to make him regret it? Or was it because of what those boys in high school said? That Lisa is so ugly and plain? Just like I couldn't figure it out. After all these years, did I really like him? Or was it because I was never the one chosen? Later, I did run into him at a class reunion. It wasn't the dramatic moment I imagined. He acted very calmly. We didn't talk, nor did we make eye contact the whole time. It was only when I left early, at the top of the stairs, that an old classmate stopped me. He wanted to add me on WeChat. "Can I take you home?" he asked, heading for his car. I politely declined. It was chilly in the deep winter. I wore a short skirt and white boots, the wind tousling my hair. After he left, I pulled a scarf out of my bag and turned around. Eric was standing on the steps, looking at me. He looked for a long time. "Don't add him." His voice was low. "He's not a good person." They said Eric's relationships never lasted long. But I was an exception. I wasn't a friend, nor a lover, yet I stayed by his side for many years. In a messy, tangled way, he occupied my entire naive youth. And by the time I woke up, I found I was at an age where people were urging me to marry. But he wasn't the one who'd marry me. Eric had heard my mom's voicemails pushing me to get married. He also knew I was being set up on blind dates. But he didn't care. He buried his head in my neck, breathing in the scent of my hair, and casually said, "I'll marry you. Do you love me?" I asked him. He paused. "We're a good match." I stared at him, motionless. "We've known each other for so long. We know everything about each other." He smiled. "If we can't find anyone else we love by the time we're 35, let's just get married." I didn't say anything. "Are you mad?" He tried to comfort me. "Haven't you liked me for so many years? Isn't this what you wanted?" So he knew all along. I only found it absurd. He believed that as long as he beckoned, I would always come back to him, just as I believed that if a broken heart said it was time to move on, it really would. So, the day after he finally decided he wanted to settle down and marry me, after all these years, I silently turned and walked away. I took out the study abroad visa I'd had for a while and left the country. Chapter 02. 6 years later, at a private club, when I stepped out of the restroom, someone recognized me in the hallway lined with locust trees. Lisa? I turned around and saw a group of familiar classmates. And there, in the middle of the crowd, was Eric. His gaze was deeper, his sharpness even harder to conceal. He looked at me quietly. After I left, he neither went mad searching for me nor drowned himself in alcohol. Instead, he started his own business and succeeded. With the company soon to go public, you really did come back. I heard your family went bankrupt. They asked me, how are you even here? Can you afford this place? Not married yet, I suppose. You didn't come back to reconcile with Eric, did you? Someone joked. The woman next to Eric heard that and gripped his wrist tightly, glaring at me with hostility. Not far away, my daughter came running over and hugged my leg. Mommy. Everyone stared, wide-eyed at my daughter. She looked quite a lot like Eric. So you have a kid already? Someone realized, instinctively glancing at Eric. How does she look a bit like you? My daughter blinked, looking up at his face. Oh, Mommy, it's the handsome brother from your photo. I picked her up, ready to leave, but Eric grabbed my hand. Is she mine? He asked. I was just about to reply. From behind, a group of important guests approached. The private club belonged to Eric's family, and among tonight's guests was the new head of the family, Eric's older brother, Ryan. He passed by us, surrounded by others. Daddy, my daughter called out crisply. The group halted. She reached out her hands, loudly calling again. Daddy. Hug. Ryan heard the call, glanced over, and paused. Before coming back to the country, we had been in a cold war. He didn't know I had brought our daughter back. Didn't hear about this one getting married. If she couldn't get Eric, no way she got his brother. Absolutely impossible. The woman next to Eric sneered. Little girl, don't just call anyone that. Don't try to forge connections. She pointed at me, eager to show off in front of everyone. How do you even teach her? Though only 5, my daughter understood. Her small hands clutched my clothes tightly. Sophia. Ryan called her by her nickname. He was tall and effortlessly took her from my arms with one hand. Wait for me in the car, he said to me. He didn't look at Eric the entire time. I nodded, following his assistant, leaving behind a group of people, stunned and unsure what to say. Congratulations, Eric, on having a niece. Someone tried to lighten the mood, attempting to flatter Eric. It's normal for a niece to look like her uncle. Good. The more they spoke, the darker Eric's expression became. Yet the woman beside him kept comforting him. I've seen women like her plenty of times. She doesn't really love you. She's just eager to marry into a wealthy family. When you didn't work out, she went for your brother instead. Eric's gaze darkened, and he grabbed the woman's chin. Just because she had a kid, she thinks she can marry a rich man. Daydreaming, he smiled slightly. You don't have what it takes. And neither does she. Chapter 03. Sir sent me to pick you up. At the entrance, the car pulled up in front of me. I opened the door and got into the back seat. There was someone in the back. I thought it was Ryan, so I spoke playfully as usual. Please don't be mad. But then I noticed, sitting in the dim light, it was Eric. What? He rested his head on his hand. The way you coaxed me back then. Is that how you're coaxing my brother now? I didn't respond. I turned, trying to get out, but the door was locked. Get out, he said to the driver. Open the door, I said coldly, or I'll call the police. He laughed softly. Just a chat. Relax. I'm not interested in things that others have touched. I took out my phone to call Ryan, but Eric was quick. He grabbed my wrist and ended the call. So what are you to him? He released my hand. A lover? Long-term or short-term? A red mark began to form around my wrist. Back then, I said let's get married. And you didn't want to. You just left. Eric's voice remained calm. And now you've turned around and had a kid for him without any status? What did he give you? Bags, jewelry, a house, or money? Lisa, when you were with me, you never asked for anything. I looked up and asked, when were we ever together? Thinking back, I wasn't even a backup plan. Eric, I like him. I was very honest. I really like him more than I ever liked you. For a brief moment, pain flickered in his eyes. I'm doing this for you. He said, we're friends. I just want to give you some advice since you seem unhappy. Eric turned his head slightly. Ryan isn't a good person. He's great. I said it without hesitation. Eric laughed angrily, unable to stop his tone from becoming somewhat agitated. There's no need to do this just to spite me. He looked at me, as if he thought he could see through me. You could find someone else. Someone more suitable for you. He spoke slowly. If you can't find anyone, I can introduce someone to you. I looked at him. I'm married to your brother. I am his wife, your sister-in-law. He stared at me and laughed for no reason. How old are you? Don't you know your own worth? Do you really think he'll marry you? He said it lightly, almost cheerfully. To be blunt, if I didn't want you, why would he pick you? I slapped him across the face, leaving him stunned. He raised a hand to wipe the corner of his mouth, then smiled even more broadly. Consider it a debt I owed you. He said, now we're even. The car unlocked. Without a second of hesitation, I turned and got out. Lisa. He lowered the window and leaned out. The wind blew through his short hair. He still looked like the careless boy from our teenage years, spoiled by the girls who chased him. You can fool others, but don't fool yourself too. It's not worth it. You're not young anymore. Time to face reality. Chapter 04. Reality. I had no money, an ordinary appearance, and wasn't young. I had no advantage in the marriage market. All of Eric's friends said that being able to cling to him made me incredibly lucky. When I spent all my savings to study abroad, I thought it would be hard to forget him. But actually, when you're desperately broke, all you can think about is making money. During my internship, sometimes, I'd scroll and see someone post a picture of Eric. He had a new girlfriend again. This one lasted for quite a while. Everyone said she had finally tamed him. Having once loved someone with all my heart, it ultimately turned into a joke. After that, I no longer had the energy to love anyone else, and I believed I wouldn't be loved again. But why was it that he got to move on so easily? Why was I the only one hurt? During the winter of my graduate studies, I saw a face on the alumni honor wall that looked a lot like Eric. His features were deep set, with striking bone structure, and an even colder demeanor, caught in a candid photo. He looked impatient, his natural poise elusive and hard to define. Like Eric, but also unlike him, he donated a building to the school. The assistant instructor noticed me staring for a long time and smiled, saying, back in the day, none of the people who pursued him succeeded. What's his name? I asked. Ryan, Eric's half-brother, the one he despised the most. Their father made his fortune thanks to his father-in-law and then cheated. He married Eric's mother afterward. If I want it, he has to give it to me. Eric had once taken me to his family's vacation villa. That was the first time he mentioned Ryan. Ryan had an old dog, almost 10 years old, that had been with him for years. I said I wanted it, and my dad gave it to me. Ryan wouldn't let go, so my dad beat him. He pointed to a dent on the door frame. He got beat so badly his head hit it. His face was covered in blood, but he still held on to that dog and wouldn't let go. What happened next? I asked him. Of course, it ended up with me, but I didn't really care for it much. He said, bored. When Ryan came back after a week in the hospital, he found out I had given the dog away. I looked sympathetic, feeling sorry for him. He's not someone you should mess with. Eric turned my face toward him, not letting me think any further. He always hated it when I gave any extra attention to other men, especially if it involved Ryan. So, in the beginning, I intentionally approached Ryan. That day at the alumni gathering was at the end of the rainy season. My high heel broke, and I was standing in a gown, with nowhere to hide from the rain. His luxury car happened to pass by. He asked the driver to give me an umbrella, and I asked if I could get in and have him give me a ride. He took me all the way to his hotel. I didn't have much experience sitting on his lap. I struggled for ages trying to unbutton his shirt, fumbling clumsily. Finally, he couldn't hold back anymore, taking my hands away, chuckling softly. "What do you want?" He knew who I was. The professor admired me and had recommended me to him a few weeks earlier. So, he had the patience to watch me act all the way here. "I know you hate your brother." I looked up at him. "I do too." He was smart. He probably guessed that Eric and I had once been involved. "I want him to regret it." I told him my plan. "I want him to see how close I am to you and start crying, begging me to go back to him. I want to prove that I can live 10,000 times better than him." And then, his gaze grew distant. "You forgive him, and you start over?" No, I didn't know what I wanted. It felt like I was trapped in a vicious cycle, desperately trying to prove something. But deep down, I knew Eric didn't love me. So, no matter whom I loved, he wouldn't care. I picked up my clothes, got up, and said to Ryan, "I'm sorry. I hated myself like this." Under the bus stop sign, the city's blue-tinted nightscape stretched before me. I waited for 10 minutes. Then I realized the buses had stopped due to a strike. Ryan's car stopped in front of me. He didn't come. It was just a courteous gesture to have the driver give me a ride home. Before I got out, the driver called out to me, "Mr. Ryan wanted me to tell you something. Eric is a scumbag. You're great. Don't waste your time on someone who doesn't deserve it." I thought Ryan was really gentle, but people from two different worlds wouldn't have any further connection. At least, that's what I truly believed at the time. Chapter 05. New Year's Eve. To earn enough for a plane ticket home, I went with my roommate to a ski resort in the snowy mountains. "Do you know why I wanted you to come?" My roommate clung to my arm. "I want to chase after a senior, and his family is super wealthy. Having you here makes me look even better." The senior indeed seemed very warm towards her. I always thought that friends of pretty girls were also pretty. Turns out, not always. He tried to lighten the mood by teasing me. "Don't take it the wrong way. I'm just blunt," he said, exchanging an amused look with my roommate before turning to me. "You're not as attractive to men as she is. Do you even have a boyfriend?" "She doesn't," my roommate answered quickly. The two of them laughed and joked as they walked towards the private ski slope. "Wow, senior, is this your family's?" The sky was a soft pink and blue, with a gentle moon hanging just above. In the endless white snow, I saw Ryan's car. "My dad manages this place for the owner." He pointed towards the car in the distance. "See that? Do you know who that is?" My roommate shook her head. The senior whispered a name in her ear, and she covered her mouth in astonishment. "Can we go say hi? He's not someone you can just walk up to." As we walked halfway up the mountain, the senior suddenly slapped his forehead. "I forgot. The advanced slope is going to close soon because of the bad weather." My roommate wasn't having it and insisted on going up. "I came here just to take pictures for my social media. We can't leave empty-handed." "All right, let's go up for a quick look." He took her up, and since I didn't want to go, they left their gear with me, asking me to wait until they came back down. I waited for almost an hour, carrying their things. I thought about heading down first, but halfway down, I encountered an avalanche. I later found out that when they got to the advanced slope and saw the weather was turning, they took the cable car down, forgetting about me entirely. When the heavy snow covered everything, my vision went white. I thought I was going to die. I never imagined I'd die alone abroad like this. I thought of my dad. When I was little, he used to take me skiing, but he'd been gone for so many years now. Then I thought of my mom. After she remarried, she had her own son, and she was afraid her husband and son wouldn't be happy, so she told me not to come to her house next time. And then, I thought of Eric. I thought if I tried my best to be good to him, he would treat me just a little better. In the end, I realized there was no one. Maybe dying alone wasn't so bad. At least the sunset today was beautiful. "Lisa." As I drifted in and out of consciousness, I heard someone calling my name over and over again. I wanted to respond but couldn't make a sound. I used all my strength to pull the bell attached to my backpack. Lisa. A pair of hands pulled me out of the snow. It's okay now, sweetheart, he said. Hold on to me. Leaning against his back, he wrapped me in his ski jacket. So warm. Saved from the brink of death. I couldn't tell if it was a dream or reality. All I felt was endless fear, tears falling down and landing on the back of his neck. He paused and asked me, "Are you still scared?" I recognized him. It was Ryan. The Ryan I'd only met once before. The one from a completely different world than mine. I mumbled softly, "I don't want Eric to regret leaving me. I just don't understand why it's so hard to love someone. I'm just scared. I'm scared that no one will ever love me in this lifetime." Silence. It was so quiet I almost fell asleep again. He gently laid me down. "Sweetheart, don't sleep." The sound of the helicopter was getting closer. I leaned against his chest. He was breathing heavily, white mist escaping his lips as he removed his goggles with one hand to look at me. Such beautiful eyes. Eyes that could enchant a person. He said, "Lisa, come love me." Chapter 06. I woke up after 2 days of fever. In his villa, the still lake had frozen over, bathed in deep blue moonlight. He coughed a few times, and when he reached out to touch my forehead, he found me awake. Looking at him, "Are you still feeling unwell?" he asked. I shook my head. He said that once I felt better, a private jet would take me back to school. "What about you?" I asked. "I have to leave," he said. "I'm already half an hour late." I grabbed his hand. He looked down at me. "Do you know what this means?" he asked. "I know." He let me do as I pleased. When I couldn't hold my breath anymore and started to slide down, he held me up. Ryan turned his head, chuckling softly. "Why haven't you learned yet?" I had forgotten that people who are self-disciplined to an extreme are also extreme in their indulgence. When they unleash their emotions and desires, it's boundless. Ryan was truly mischievous. He did everything, and when I was at my weakest, he still asked, "Am I pushing too hard?" I pretended to push him away. He laughed and held my hand. That early morning, after days of snow, it finally stopped, as naturally as if he were asking me to have breakfast. He said, "Let's get married." I shot up in bed. "You don't have to take responsibility for me." I waved my hands. "I mean, this is just a consensual thing between us. You have to take responsibility for me." His black hair looked especially soft under the daylight. It was my first time. He took me to meet his mother. As the car passed the century-old buildings in the city center, I pointed out the window. I've always been curious, what kind of people live there? He held my hand. "You'll see today." His mother was very gentle. She gave me many things. "Wait a second," I said, holding a jade bracelet, overwhelmed as we left the house. "If we break up, do I have to give this back?" "You don't need to return it," he sighed, lightly pushing my head, opened the car door, and ushered me in. The wedding was grand. Seeing all those extra zeros in my bank account, I still couldn't fully grasp that I had become Ryan's wife. When my roommate found out I got married, she didn't believe it. After a lot of inquiries and confirming it was true, she blocked me. The senior called me, on the other hand, saying a lot of flattering things, because he had brought unauthorized people to the slope. His family lost their privilege to manage the ski resort. To be honest, he complained a bit. "You were partly to blame for what happened back then. Don't take it the wrong way." I offered him a sincere suggestion. "Since you know so well what men like, why not find a job where you can put that skill to use?" He was speechless for a while before hanging up the phone. I found out I was pregnant in the 3rd month of our marriage. I was busy with graduation, busy with my internship. Before leaving work, I didn't forget to make one more trip to the bathroom. I was bleeding. Without thinking much, I rode my bike to the hospital myself. After they drew over 10 vials of blood, I felt dizzy. The doctor said I needed to be admitted to preserve the pregnancy. "Do you have any family here?" Only then did I remember I had Ryan. He rushed over from the West Coast on a red-eye flight, still carrying his overcoat. I smiled foolishly and waved at him. "What's with the smile?" His voice was gentle, but his expression showed some anger. Seeing you makes me happy, I said. Just that one sentence, and his anger vanished. Ryan sighed, squatting down in front of me, resting his head on my knee, catching his breath. He said, "Rely on me a bit too, will you?" I patted his hair, short and bristly, soft, carrying the dampness of early spring. Chapter 07. In the 5th year after giving birth to Sophia, at a banquet, Ryan stood by the 2nd floor railing, looking down at the infinity pool below. By the pool, people were gossiping about things back in the country. There was a woman who liked Eric for almost 10 years, hopelessly devoted. After all that entanglement, she just left without asking for anything. Ryan paused, hand frozen as he poured his whiskey. Someone asked, "And Eric didn't react?" The person speaking smiled. "He threw out all her stuff the next day." Such heartlessness? That's what everyone says. But guess what? The person raised an eyebrow and continued. He went and picked everything back up in the middle of the night, found a special room to keep it all, and he's still living in the same apartment she rented before going abroad. No one responded after that. "Do you believe it?" the person said. "If she comes back, Eric will fall for her instantly." Downstairs, the conversation moved on to another topic. Sophia hugged her toy and came looking for Ryan. "Daddy." He paused, turned around to pick her up, and saw me. That night, Ryan asked me, if I wasn't his brother, would you have come to me that day at the alumni event? Saying yes would be a lie. I spoke honestly. But things are different now. Because of the child? He asked. Because you're wonderful, and I gradually fell in love with you. He got up, gently patting my head, so tender, as if he'd never be angry with me. "It's okay," he said. "You don't need to force yourself to say you love me." That was our first direct emotional conflict. He cared deeply about it. I had no way to explain. "Are you going to leave?" I leaned against the door and asked him. Having endured silent treatment for so many years, I instinctively feared conflict, afraid that if he got angry, he would never come back. "No." He walked past me, locking the door behind him. He lifted my hair. "What's that word? Sweetheart?" He looked at me, paused. Make hate. Begging was useless. Whatever I couldn't handle, that's what would happen. Unable to take the force, I hit the headboard. He reached out to cushion it, whispering, "Sorry, did I hurt you?" I shook my head, then nodded. Wait. I raised my hand. "I want some water. Stay thirsty." He held my ankle, flipping me over. I couldn't say another word, only the shattered echoes, trying to hold back, still overflowing. A Mediterranean midsummer night. At the break of dawn, stars and the moon plunged into the serene, glistening sea. He turned his head, leaning by the white curtain, smoking a cigarette, several clear scratch marks on his back. I had never seen him smoke before. Usually, he had excellent self-control. Noticing I was awake, he got up and brought me some water. "Lisa." I looked up at him. He leaned down, kissing me tenderly, so gently. He said, "If you run back to see him, I'll lock you up." We had a cold war for 3 days. He went back home for a meeting. I picked up Sophia. "Let's go pick Daddy up and bring him home." Chapter 08. Getting out of Eric's car, I stood at the corner for a moment and called Ryan. 10 minutes later, he came to pick me up. "Where's Sophia?" I got into the passenger seat. "She's asleep. Take her back home." He turned the steering wheel, light streaming across his profile. "Where are we going?" I looked at him expectantly. "Are you secretly taking me to eat something good?" He glanced at me, then looked away. "No, I'm finding a prime location to lock you up." Ryan still took me to eat what I liked. "How are you going to lock me up?" After eating, I followed him back to the car. He picked up the folder from the back seat, then took me to the household registration office at the police station. Ryan, very serious, took out a translated and Hague-certified document. My marital status on my record changed from single to married. I blinked at him. "This is your lockup?" He lifted his eyebrows. "It's a society ruled by law now. using the legality of marriage to reduce your chances of bigamy. He tapped my head. To prevent you from having one husband abroad and another at home. I silently opened the car door. He reached over, closing it. So, you still went to see him? No, I wanted to see you. I looked up at him. To pick you up and bring you home. Honey, I said. He was so bad, making me reconcile first even during our Cold War. He asked, what compensation do you want? To outsiders. Ryan was the refined gentleman molded by an elite education. He would never indulge in uncontrollable, rule-breaking addictions, nor would he get caught in a passive situation without a way out. But right now, in the parking lot, in the car, I covered his mouth and nose. He looked down at me. As the feeling of suffocation spread, he remained restrained and calm, breathing from his abdomen, tightly controlled, drawing me in as well, rising and falling. He was on the verge of being unable to breathe, his eyes reddening. Things went too far. He grabbed my wrist, pulling my hand away, with his raw desire released. His gaze had the inherent authority of someone in control, but he had to lower his head. He whispered softly, "Sister." I collapsed in his arms, panting. The phone rang, an unknown caller. My hand shook, accidentally answering it. Lisa, in the heated car. Eric's voice was especially clear. I've checked. Ryan is already married abroad. You've been deceived. Eric continued on, undeterred. If you beg me, I can help register your daughter's household. Startled, I coughed violently. He sensed something was off and asked, what are you doing? Ryan leaned back in the seat, raised an eyebrow, and helped soothe my breathing, then took the phone, saying only one thing. She's busy now. Eric recognized it. After half a minute of silence, he hung up. The next day, news spread that Eric was getting married. I heard that the bride was his high school first love. Chapter 09. As I was packing up, getting ready to leave the country and go home, the class monitor called me. Come to the class reunion. See the teachers. He said, it might be ages until we meet again. Who knows when? I agreed. I just didn't expect to run into Eric's first love, Emma, that pretty transfer student. How many carats? They were touching the engagement ring on Emma's hand. Latecomers were also eager to greet her, bypassing me, squeezing into my chair. You, she called to me. Mind moving? Eventually, there were no more seats, so I asked the waiter for an extra chair, but Emma spoke up, telling me to sit next to her. She looked at my bag. Oh my, this bag is so old. How many years has it been since you changed it? Someone curious asked. How much did it cost? This bag was a handmade one Sophia and I made together. Not much, I said. Looks like maybe 30 or 40. Right? The person insisted on an answer. Someone spoke up for me. So what if it is? As long as it works. That person sneered. Only people without money comfort themselves like that. The atmosphere turned awkward, and Emma decided to play the good guy. She held my hand, her voice pitiful. To live like this is already pretty good. I heard you're raising a child alone. Didn't even have a wedding, right? It's a pity, given your circumstances. It'd be tough to find someone again. People around her smiled and echoed her sentiments. Who could compare to you? Back then, we just couldn't win against you. When it was time to leave, Eric walked into the private room. Everyone had assumed he wouldn't come. He said he was there to pick up Emma. Our classmates praised them with admiration, offering endless well wishes. I turned to leave with the crowd, but as I passed him, Eric grabbed my wrist. Then he let go. How about you ride with me? His sudden question drew everyone's attention. Where are you staying now? Emma's smile froze, and she grabbed Eric's arm. Yes, we can give you a ride since it's on the way. No need, I said. I'll take a taxi. Before I could finish, a drunken male classmate cut in. No one's picking you up? He was the one who once wanted to add me to WeChat. Heh, thought you were too good for me. Always trying to reach for someone higher. He sneered. You thought Eric would fall in love with you. Women like you are always so proud, ruining themselves. Just as he spoke, a car stopped at the entrance. Snow scattered in the air. Ryan walked up the steps, holding an umbrella. I recognized him and rushed towards him. Weren't you supposed to be in a meeting? It ended early. His appearance caused a stir in the crowd. Didn't they say she wasn't married? Who's that guy? No idea. But he's really handsome. No matter how handsome, it can't be eaten as food. Eric stared at Ryan's hand resting habitually around my waist. He spoke slowly. What? Are you this attentive to all your lovers? With that one sentence, the room fell silent, and the looks directed at me turned more disdainful. Ryan raised his fist and punched Eric in the face. He didn't hold back. Blood immediately appeared at the corner of Eric's mouth. Ryan grabbed Eric by the collar and calmly said, "She is your sister-in-law, my lawful wife." Eric's eyes narrowed. Stunned. Married? When did you get married? 5 years ago. Ryan straightened up, wiping the blood from his hand. Hearing that, Eric looked at me. His eyes were filled with shock and heartbreak. Just 1 year. In just 1 year, you managed to forget me completely. Teach me. How did you do it? Ryan blocked his view. In what capacity are you asking these questions? As an ex? Are you? The crowd at the door grew larger. What happened? Why are they fighting? Someone tried to intervene but was held back. That's Eric's older brother. Emma's face turned pale. How could this be? Why her? But no one answered her. I held Ryan's hand and said to the class monitor, "We're leaving now." Eric propped himself up against the railing, watching me leave. This time, I really didn't look back, even though his face was covered in blood. Chapter 10. I didn't expect to see Eric again. The elevator doors opened. He was standing at my door, waiting for a long time. The cigarette butt burned his hand, but he didn't seem to notice. He said he was there to deliver an invitation. His and Emma's wedding. A sister-in-law should attend. The wounds on his face hadn't fully healed. His brow was bruised, and he looked pale and haggard. When he used that title, his eyes held a self-deprecating mockery. If you're uncomfortable, you don't have to come. I took the invitation, looking down at the photo. He was watching me intently. As my hair fell down, he instinctively reached out to tuck it behind my ear, but I moved first. My palm touched the back of his hand. I withdrew my hand and said to him, "This is for the best. Eric, you have your love, and I have mine." He searched my face for any sign of forced emotion, asking, "Do you not hate me?" When love reaches the end, you can't tell anymore. I just feel tired. I don't want to see you again. But now, everything is in the past. Eric, I never thought I'd be the one to say these words. We were friends once, and I sincerely wish you the best. His eyes were dry. His smile was tinged with an unavoidable sadness. Thank you. He turned his face away, no longer looking at me. If there's nothing else, I'll head in. Lisa, he asked casually, what do you look like in a wedding dress? I paused for a moment. Eric, that has nothing to do with you. I opened the door and stepped inside, but he grabbed my hand, refusing to let go. How could it have nothing to do with me? His voice cracked. I was here first. He sank down, pressing my hand to his forehead. I was here first. You liked me for 10 years. I don't want to marry anyone else. I just want you. Come back. Let's start over. I felt wetness on the back of my hand. All these years, I had never seen Eric cry like this. I didn't know what he was crying for, but I knew that 10 years ago, Lisa didn't want these late tears. After crying countless times for him, she finally understood something. If tears mattered, then lovers wouldn't be betrayed. If I could, I pulled my hand away and said calmly, I'd rather have never met you. Chapter 11. I wish I had met you sooner, Ryan said to me suddenly as I helped apply medicine to his arm. I'll wait for you after class. Walk you home, so you won't have to live so hard alone. My hand paused, holding the cotton swab. Then I wrapped my arms and legs around his waist, holding him tight, and all my unease dissipated. I said, we still have so many decades together. Ryan's lips curved up, and he leaned down to kiss me. His kiss gradually made me lose balance. His hands were unruly, untamed, and even our breaths became chaotic. He lifted me and set me onto the kitchen island. At our feet, we heard a dog bark. We both paused. Ryan, I brought home a stray dog. In the corner, a little white dog poked its head out of the box. He looked down, paused, and for no reason, smiled. He gently pulled down my shirt, wiping my lips, and tenderly embraced me. He said he used to have a little dog too. What was its name? Eros. That sounds familiar. I had a flash of realization. Your private ski resort has the same name. He missed it, but no matter how hard he searched, he couldn't find it. Teenage Ryan, determined not to forget it, named the snowy mountain after the dog. In his 20s, Ryan, on that snow-covered peak, couldn't find a trace of me. He made a wish to Mount Eros. Little dog, bring her back to me. And then, he heard the sound of a bell. Extras. Just a woman. The morning Lisa left, Eric woke up, instinctively reaching out with his left hand, only to find the cold, empty sheets. It took 3 minutes for Eric to accept the fact that she was gone. It was nothing. If she wanted to leave, she could leave. It wasn't a relationship that needed any commitment. He hired a moving company, packed up all her things, one by one, until the place was empty. It was good this way. Out of sight, out of mind. A friend invited him for a drink, and he went. They didn't ask about her either, after all. It wasn't a relationship that would have been blessed. He was just a bit bored. He went back to the office to work overtime. The startup project was busy enough to make him feel like he was dying. He wasn't bored anymore. When he got home, everything was his, just as he was used to. It was good this way. Nothing left. Too comfortable, he fell right asleep. If he had to blame something, it was the pillow. Closing his eyes, all he could hear was her voice. Eric, does it feel good? I spent a long time picking it out. Eric, what are you doing? Eric, when are you coming home? It took him a year. Every night, he tried to forget her voice. Don't be so useless, just a woman. But no matter what, he couldn't forget. On the night he ended up in the hospital due to exhaustion, he found a moment of respite in his unconsciousness. Finally, his mind was quiet. The quieter it is, the clearer you hear your inner voice. When she comes back, I'll forgive her. So, please, come back soon. When he woke up, his mind was clear. He canceled his ticket. He didn't want to hear anything more about Lisa. On the last day before discharge, he saw a young couple through the glass. The boy had been hit by an electric scooter. The girl was crying in distress. Her tears kept falling. And at some point, Eric thought of Lisa again. He remembered how she once took care of him day and night like that. She once cried in panic just like that. At the time, Eric thought it was ridiculous and asked her, "What's there to cry about? Aren't I fine?" Lisa sobbed, her eyes confused as she looked up at him and asked, "Who am I to you?" Before that, Lisa had always been well-behaved, always measured, never demanding he commit to their relationship. But that time, she said, "Eric, I'm neither your family nor your wife. If something happens to you, I can't even sign the surgery consent form." The old man in the bed next to them said, "Young man, you're lucky. This girl cares so much for you." Eric's gaze wavered. He reached out and pulled the tearful Lisa into his arms. After that hospital discharge, Eric told her, "I'll marry you." He thought for sure Lisa would agree. But the next day, she was gone. The house was empty. He never met anyone like her again. Later, she really did come back. She became Ryan's wife, had her own child. Eric thought he should get married too. He wanted to marry the person he loved 10 years ago. Someone who had to be better than her. But there was no such person. And she didn't care at all. She never looked back. It took many years after Lisa left for Eric to understand something. Those who betray true love will never have love.